now it's time for On Point, where we speak to experts to delve deeper into the biggest news stories in the spotlight right now. China had been touting some of the lowest numbers of daily COVID-19 cases in the world thanks to their zero COVID policy, which saw some of the strictest antivirus measures.
That's right. However, due to the emergence of the Omicron variant, the country is now seeing a huge surge in virus cases. The big question of whether or not China can continue to maintain its zero COVID measures is in the spotlight. And to get a look into China's situation, we now connect with Ben Cowling, Chair Professor of Epidemiology at the University of Hong Kong. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor.
Good morning.
So first and foremost, China is seeing some of the highest numbers in virus cases in over 2 years now. This despite having some of the strongest antivirus measures in place. What exactly went wrong with China at this time?
I think Omicron is extremely transmissible. The strategy in China is, of course, keeping the virus out of the country first, and then secondly, stopping any outbreaks as soon as possible after they are detected. In the past 2 years, past 18 months, they've often acted very quickly when outbreaks are very small and got them under control. Now, they also act very quickly, but because Omicron is so much more transmissible, the outbreak's already bigger than maybe it would have used to be with a different strain. I think that's really the problem. Just Omicron is very difficult to stop spreading. I think they can do it, but it's difficult.
Well, Professor, many countries around the world are, easing restrictions, like South Korea, and are moving towards the, living with COVID-19. But how much longer do you think China could hold on to its zero COVID position?
It's not clear. I don't think there's any roadmap away from zero COVID yet that's being discussed in the mainland. Of course, as vaccine coverage gets higher and higher, and as antiviral drugs become available, I think in mainland China, there'll be less of a rationale, less of a justification for zero COVID. But for now, that's still very much the strategy.
It seems, according to some of the reports that I've had a chance to read, that even amongst the Chinese population, their patients are really wearing thin at this time because, let's face it, they have been going through this very extensive antivirus measures for a really prolonged time. If, let's say, China does indeed decide to shift into this living with COVID-19 phase, are they even ready for that?
Well, not yet. But I would remind you that although we hear about outbreaks right now in Shanghai, for example, much of the country is actually not under any major restrictions. There's some travel restrictions from one province to another, but domestically in much of the country, it's been normal for the last 2 years. When there's an outbreak, of course, in a particular city at a particular time, there's a lot of disruption, there's the lockdown, the mass testing and so on. But that's still relatively rare in a country the size of China. So I think we hear about the outbreaks. What we don't hear is, of course, all the other parts of the country where there is not an outbreak.
And before we let you go, Professor, statistics show that around half of those aged over the age of 80 in China are still not fully vaccinated. And in fact, there are about 52 million people over the age of 60 who have not been vaccinated at all in China. So for a country that has so much strict virus prevention measures, why are there so many people in high-risk age groups who are unvaccinated?
Well, I think part of the answer is actually in your question, that when the zero COVID measures are so successful, maybe some older people think it's not necessary to get vaccinated just yet. They may not be against vaccination, but they may just be hesitant in terms of waiting until the risk becomes more imminent. And that's a problem for the Chinese authorities to solve before they proceed to have a roadmap to relax their COVID policies, because if the vaccine coverage in elderly is not high, we can see what will happen. Just look at Hong Kong, where I work. It's been very, very tough in the last 2 months with a lot of severe cases in unvaccinated elderly. And that's still a major problem in the mainland.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for your insights. We appreciate it. I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you.